Welcome to another episode of Once Upon a Screen Time. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Twilight Zone from 2019, the one narrated by Jordan Peele. Season 1, Episode 1. Let's go. Once upon a time, in the far-off kingdom of 2019, there existed a dark and mysterious place known as the Twilight Zone. Here, nothing is ever as it seems, and every action has consequences. A lot of them have really bad consequences. This enchanted and slightly cursed realm was a place where humans ventured into strange new worlds and promptly regretted all of their life choices. Our story today takes us into the very first episode of this strange new Twilight Zone, titled The Comedian. It's not exactly your typical bedtime story, unless your idea of bedtime stories involves having your entire reality turned upside down by a guy with a microphone and some serious issues. So sit back and relax and prepare to enter the Twilight Zone, where humor dies and everything you can say will be used against you by the universe itself. Our story begins with a man named Samir, a struggling comedian who for some reason believes that his audience wanted to hear long, drawn-out lectures on the importance of the Second Amendment. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Samir, our not-so-charming protagonist, spends his days grinding away in a small comedy club, working on material that's less funny and more, please stop talking before I die of boredom. Samir is what we in the fairy tale business call a tragic hero. Except instead of slaying dragons or rescuing princesses, his tragedy is that he's just really bad at his job. His jokes fall flat, his audience yawns louder every time, and he has the comedic timing of a broken clock. But Samir doesn't give up. He carries on, convinced that one day people will finally understand his deep intellectual thoughts about gun control. But as with all great tragedies, the universe has other plans. One fateful night, after yet another excruciating set where Samir's jokes fall flat, he meets a man at the bar. But not just any man. J.C. Wheeler, a legendary comedian with a reputation so mythical, he may as well be the comedy's world version of the big bad wolf. J.C. Wheeler exudes an air of cryptic wisdom mixed with really unsettling vibes, as if he sold his soul to some dark entity. J.C. Wheeler approaches Samir like a fairy tale mentor, but a shady one. He offers some unsolicited advice that sounds suspiciously like a curse. If Samir wants to succeed, he needs to talk about intellectual topics like the Second Amendment and start talking about things that are personal. J.C. Wheeler assures him that the audience wants the comedian himself. His life, his soul, his very essence served on a silver platter. What could possibly go wrong? With a smile that says, I know something you don't know, and I feed off the misery of others. J.C. Wheeler sends Samir off with some simple yet ominous advice. Make them laugh, and they will forget everything else. If you're thinking this sounds like the start of a deal with the devil, you are not wrong. But hey, Samir is a desperate guy. He's not going to let a little supernatural foreshadowing get in the way of his dreams. Right? Armed with his new slightly cursed advice, Samir returns to the stage for another attempt at comedy glory. This time he takes J.C. Wheeler's advice to heart and decides to ditch the political stuff in favor of something more personal, his dog. Now, if you're like most people, you're probably thinking, great, everyone loves jokes about dogs. But this is the Twilight Zone, and nothing is ever that simple. Samir launches into a routine about his dog, and miracles happen. People actually laugh. They are not just chuckling politely, they are roaring with laughter. For the first time in his tragic career, Samir is killing it on stage. But there's a twist. When he finally finishes the joke and walks off stage, he realizes something has happened. His dog, gone, vanished, like it never existed. Samir rushes home frantically searching for his furry friend, but no one remembers the dog, not even his girlfriend. It's as if his beloved pet was erased from reality the moment he made it a punchline. And thus, Samir learns the hard way that in this fairy tale, making people laugh has a price. Side note, never joke about your dog, ever. Despite the horror of his dog's sudden disappearance, Samir, being the deeply flawed fairy tale hero that he is, doesn't take this as a sign to stop. Instead of running away from the supernatural nightmare he's unleashed, Samir decides that this is fine. After all, the audience loved him, and isn't that what really matters? Forget the fact that his reality is unraveling around him. He's finally getting laughs. Samir starts testing this newfound power, turning every person in his life into a potential punchline. His jokes become sharper, more personal, and here's the kicker. Whenever he makes someone the butt of the joke, they disappear from existence. Friends, acquaintances, rivals, it doesn't matter who they are. Once they become part of his comedy routine, it's like they were never even born. At first, Samir is having the time of his life. His comedy career is skyrocketing. The audience adores him. And he's finally achieving the kind of success he's always dreamed of. But like any good cautionary tale, there's a catch. The more people Samir erases from existence, the more isolated he becomes. Soon, he's running out of people to joke about. And his once booming life is starting to feel pretty empty. So be careful what you joke about. You might find yourself left with no one to laugh with. Now let's talk about Rina, Samir's girlfriend and the princess of this tale. Rina is patient, supportive, and frankly way too good for Samir, considering he is now casually erasing people from existence for the sake of a punchline. But in the world of dark fantasy, love can't save you from your own poor decisions. As Samir's obsession with his newfound power grows, so does the tension between him and Rina. She starts noticing that people in their lives, friends, family, co-workers, are disappearing, and yet Samir refuses to stop. At one point, she even confronts him about it, but Samir, in true tragic hero fashion, brushes her off, convinced that his comedy career is more important than literally anything else. This is the point where we, the audience, officially give up hope for Samir's redemption. It's clear that he's not just a tragic hero anymore. He's the architect of his own doom. As Samir continues to spiral deeper into his power-hungry, laughter-addicted nightmare, he starts to realize that he's destroyed everything that once mattered to him. His comedy career may be thriving, but at what cost? His friends are gone, his dog is gone, and even his fellow comedians have vanished. He's left with nothing but the hollow sound of applause echoing in the void he's created. In true Twilight Zone fashion, Samir's downfall is both inevitable and tragically ironic. During his final performance, he turns the spotlight on himself, quite literally. Desperate to keep his audience entertained and with no one left to joke about, Samir decides to joke about himself. He starts talking about his own life, his own mistakes, and poof, just like that, he disappears. The audience laughs, of course, but now there's no one left to enjoy the fruits of his labor. Samir, the man who once craved nothing but validation and applause, has erased himself from existence, leaving behind only the echoes of his own ambition. The moral of the story is that if you sell your soul for laughs, don't be surprised when you end up laughing alone, or worse, not laughing at all. And so, we have come to the end of our twisted fairy tale. The Comedian is a cautionary tale about the dangers of ambition, the perils of seeking validation, and the consequences of turning the people you love into punchlines. In this dark corner of the Twilight Zone, there are no happy endings, no magical reversals, and certainly no redemptions. Instead, we are left with a man who quite literally destroyed his own life and the lives of everyone around him because he couldn't resist the lure of applause. It's a fairy tale where the hero falls, not because of an evil witch or a wicked curse, but because of his own flawed choices and misguided priorities. And if that's not the perfect modern day cautionary tale, I don't know what is.